And so recording has started, and now we're about to get ready to start the stream.
His hair, whatever. You're looking like a poodle this morning.
I'm not like a poodle.
Which tomorrow is the poodle's day.
Oh, that's right. I need to get with Dr. Branch to see who's coming. All right, preparing live stream preview. And let me just type in the information. We've got about a minute and a half before we hit the top of the hour on the radio.
And you say my mic is good enough?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
All right. And the live stream has officially started. So, good morning, everyone who are watching on our Facebook Live, and happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans out there on behalf of all of us here at KLK 102.5 FM. We thank each and every one of you for your service to this nation. Joining us today is Mr. Hard Weinstock. He is a local citizen. He's going to be talking to us about 5Gs and how 5G technology could affect you. So we're going to be going live with that just in a few seconds. So stand by. We are inside the top of the hour on the radio, and we will go live and begin very, very shortly. So we're getting ready to go into the weather. So we're now inside of the weather, and after the news, we'll be ready to go. I've got my phone. We can monitor the live feed for any questions or comments.
Okay. I'll be.
We have
about my tablet.
Okay, well, we got 30 seconds before we begin. We are now inside of feature story news headlines in our show intro, and then we will begin.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. I've got 4 screens going, two monitors, an iPad, and an iPhone. And here we go. Show intro, 30 seconds, and we will officially begin. And good morning once again to everyone watching on our Facebook Live feed. Feel free to share this video with others who may have an interest in our conversation. Here we go. KLK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Wednesday. It's November 11th, 2020. This is Community Conversations. Kate Wonder is here with you via Zoom, joined by our host, Kabila Jones, host of Community Conversations. Happy Veterans Day to each and every one of the veterans out there listening on behalf of all of us here at KLK. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you for your service to this nation. Joining us as our special guest today is Mr. Hard Weinstock. He is a local citizen of Jonesboro, and he is here to talk about a concern that he has that he wanted to bring to the community, which is the upcoming 5G technology for cell phones, and he just wanted to bring some of his concerns to the community. And as a community radio station, that is what we do. We do allow the community to come and discuss issues of importance to them. So with that said, we want to say good morning, and we also want to personally thank you for your service to the country. Mr. Weinstock served in the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Army as well. So Mr. Weinstock, we just want to start off by just kind of giving a little brief introduction of yourself, and then we can just go straight into your discussion.
Okay, thank you, Ganzi and Kwabila. Again, I go by Hardell, and the subject today, which is essentially 5G technology, and in the broader context, the different levels of radio frequency that we've become used to. This is a kind of an update of what's coming down the road for Jonesboro. As way of introduction, I'm not new to Jonesboro. I went to high school here in the 70s, came back in the early 80s to graduate from ASU, and came back a couple of years ago to start helping take care of my mom, who's a longtime resident of Jonesboro. The family's been here since 1970. So my wife and I are bouncing back and forth between here and Virginia, more here now that I'm spending more time here. And with that, appreciate your thanking for the service. Big part of why I went into the service was my experiences here in Jonesboro in high school. So 30 odd years later, here I sit. With that being said, the subject of 5G came up about a year ago. It was actually about the time that Jonesboro was in the throes of the special election for the 1% sales tax that was in the news. And I was following that issue and familiar with Channel 24. I would watch the city council meetings, and it happened that on August the 6th of 2019, there was a presentation by a gentleman out of Little Rock, and the subject was small cell technology coming to Jonesboro. Well, actually it was coming to Arkansas, but my interest obviously was Jonesboro. So he made his presentation, the council members asked a few questions, he went away, they made a vote a couple of weeks later, I think in early September, that modified the code in Jonesboro to account for these small cells. And essentially when you hear small cells, you're looking at small pieces of equipment. In fact, let me just show you an example. We'll get started here. And let me know.
While he's doing that, for those of you that are listening on the, oops.
Can you see
And
it?
those of you that are listening on the radio, you can go back and watch on our Facebook Live to see the material in which Mr. Weinstock is talking about.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, it's a first for me, so appreciate your counsel getting through this.
And
So
by the way, didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just trying to give some guidance for the people what's going on. What you are looking at on the screen is the 5G Hurricane Facebook page. This is a page. Did you create this page?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did, and I'll walk you through it. I will say that for whatever reason, sometimes the page doesn't come up in searches. I'm not sure why that is, but you can see it right here. So to go back to the point I was making, here's examples of small cells. And generally what they're going to do is they're going to put them up on telephone poles and different poles around town, plus on buildings. It's going to be a wide variation of this equipment that's going to be in and around Jonesboro as we move closer to the activation of the 5G network in Jonesboro. Now, a lot of people who have current phones or newer phones are probably already seeing 5G on their phones, but it's my understanding that the technology has not been activated in Jonesboro, and what that 5G icon reflects on the phone is some technological thing that your cell phone provider or the the cell phone manufacturer installed for the phone. But as far as the actual technology being active, my understanding is Jonesboro won't receive 5G until August of next year. But again, my point for this particular slide is to show you what, when you hear the term small cell, these are examples of different types of antennas that are going to be put up on various structures around Jonesboro to transmit. Think of them as antennas that, or actually you think of them as cells that have multiple antennas inside of them, because each one of these has multiple antennas. And this is what is going to transmit the signal for 5G once it becomes active. With the telephone poles, you can see that City Water and Light has the rights of way in Jonesboro for all this. So there's, you know, this is going to impact not only the telecoms, and from my understanding, it's AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon that have the contracts to do this in Jonesboro, as they do nationwide. And what they do is they subcontract it out to site developers, a third party that's going to do the installations. And there's some of this other work has been done around town, but so that's a picture of what the small cells are. In September last year, Jonesboro passed the ordinance to update it to essentially give the telecoms the authority or the permissions to do what they needed to do. And at the time that they did it, although there was concern about 5G technology at the time, excuse me, the issue had not really bubbled up in Arkansas too much. It was actually a little bit muted. So after September, the next time that I became active with it was in early February. And that's when Mayor Perrin made his State of the City address. And he made city beautification as the theme for the year. And one of those themes or aspects of it is, you know, cleaning up the city, trimming trees, etc. And the reason that caught my attention is that because of the nature of 5G wireless, it needs line of sight from antenna to antenna. So anywhere where there may have been trees overhanging or blocking the view of what could be a small cell, that foliage needed to be taken back. So in context of city beautification, we got a knock on the door here, and I think it was around April of this year, and the gentleman and I went outside and he talked to me about how they were going to come in and cut back the trees where we live. And it's been going on around town since then. So that takes us out to somewhere in April, May timeframe. And I wrote my first letter to the editor at that time that talked about two things. One, the trees being cut back. And secondly, there was trenching going on from Jonesboro High School, and it was going along Church Street and Wilkins. And I asked one of the contractors what they were doing, and he told me that they were laying about 9 miles of fiber from the high school to the schools. And that's, again, that was kind of the work where I started really getting involved with it, because while wired telecommunications, wired internet is all well and good, it's the safest way to do it. In this case, I don't know, in fact, I don't know today whether or not inside the schools they are using any kind of wireless platform in there. But essentially, that was the cue that got me involved with becoming more active in it. I wrote one of the city councilmen, Councilman Long, Bobby Long, over a couple of weeks, month or so, we were able to get the attention of Mayor Perrin, who graciously offered to have a special presentation done on radio frequency radiation. And that was done in August by Dr. Spites. And that video is available for anyone to see. So that gets us out. And what Dr. Spites came up with is he said that although there are concerns about radio wave and radio frequency issues health-wise, he said there was no smoking gun. And so I wrote a letter to the editor and I said, well, you know, yeah, there's not one smoking gun, there's actually 3 smoking guns. And that letter is available. So I've been engaged on it on a periodic basis since, as I said, August of last year through this year. And then in September, I stood up the Facebook page that we're looking at, and I'll just kind of go in reverse chronological order to get back to where we are. And again, my interest is Jonesboro. I have been in contact with all members of the city council via emails. A few of them have responded. A few of them have been engaged somewhat. I've also included all of our state representatives and state representatives in those emails. So the city council and the state reps are aware of what this citizen is sending and whether or not they have taken any initiative or interest in it beyond that, other than to thank me for the information. That's all out there. So the main reason for this presentation is primarily because, Laganza, you invited me to do something after the election when you heard me give a short presentation at another meeting. And this is what this is my opportunity to take another avenue to share information across the community and to offer to assist anyone who has any more interest in the issue of not only 5G, but RF frequencies overall. So again, we haven't seen these antennas that you're looking on at the screen in Jonesboro yet, but they're coming. They're coming. And I'm just going to walk it back slowly, because one of the things that concerns me in Jonesboro is that the city council has bought the line from the Arkansas Municipal League that there are restrictions on what actions a locality can take to affect the installation and activation of 5G. And at some point that was the case. I mean, when they made the presentation in August of last year and they did the ordinance last year, that was the case. But as we know, everything changed around February, March of 2020. And since then, with the COVID, there's been, over the course of time, there's been a lot of localities that have stood up and on behalf of their citizens enacted ordinances that were more restrictive on the telecoms and the site developers who are doing the work than the original ordinance is. And in this case, New Hampshire just within the last week has issued a report that talks to some of those issues. And there are other states that have done the same thing, and many localities throughout the country that are doing things. So my goal essentially is to encourage the citizens to engage the council members and to take a hard look at what the current ordinance reads, to look at what other localities have done, not only throughout America, but across the world with respect to the installation of 5G, and to take action that will do what they claim their primary responsibility is, which is the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of Jonesboro. So as you can see here with this screen of New Hampshire, I sent it to this, if you look up top where it says some of New Hampshire's recommendations can be adopted by the city of Jonesboro government, so they got it. Others by the Be Local, Be Heard, Local Control, Jonesboro JCs. The Be Local, Be Heard, and hashtag local control, those are actually, I think, encouraged by the Arkansas Municipal League to use on issues that that influence local control over issues. And I'm a big believer in local control and local government. The government closest to the people governs best. So this is an example of the most recent, but there have been examples through the summer where Boston, Massachusetts told the telecoms where to get off. Hawaii enacted ordinances restricting 5G or activation or progress of 5G. And the response that I've been given from, or actually it's not me, it was actually stated by the guy from Little Rock who came back more recently, was that, yeah, the localities are doing this, but it's only until the telecoms decide to deal with the issue. And at that point, it will become very confrontational. Again, I'm not really concerned about what the telecoms want. I'm more interested in what is best for the city of Jonesboro and the people who live here. So in line with that, there's a lawsuit that is currently in the courts by two organizations, the environmental.
We have about, not to cut you off, Mr. Weinstock, we have about 2 minutes left in this subject. Uncle Billy, did you have a question about what we've talked about so far? We do have a Facebook shout out. Shout out to Patty Harbison DeFord. Appreciate you for checking in on our live feed.
Just want to basically find out, what does it mean, I guess, health wise? I mean, I've seen a lot of comments.
Got about 90 seconds on that.
Okay, well, health wise, and that's, again, go back to everything pre-COVID is when the ordinance was passed. There's concerns with all types of electromagnetic frequency radiation, which is all these devices that we use, they all emit it. There is a distinct difference at the 5G level, but there's been diagnoses of what's called EMF sensitivity, where people may have headaches, nosebleeds, tinnitus, some cold and flu-like symptoms for extended exposure. And those are some examples. And the point that I've been emphasizing since I began addressing it, I guess more formally through the newspaper and to the city council, is that with COVID, we're looking at an untested technology being stacked on top of the COVID concerns. And why do we want to do that if it's not necessary and it's not proven healthy for the citizens?
Mr. Weinstock, unfortunately, we got to leave it there. We're getting ready to go inside our break, but do not go anywhere. We will be back on the radio very shortly. We're talking with Mr. Hard Weinstock, talking about his concerns about 5G in the city of Jonesboro. Stay with us. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. So the conversation does continue on our Facebook Live. We'll be back from the radio in about 1, 2, 3 minutes. So this will be a 3-minute break from the radio, but again, we're still streaming live on Facebook.
Cordelia, did I answer your question?
Well, I guess more or less. Well, are there studies where people can read and see, I guess, people's
Yeah, I understand the question. The answer is yes.
Okay.
But it comes back to and I can answer this online when you go active again, but the Federal Communications Commission, which has the authority over the spectrum for communications, you guys are well aware of all that, is what's known as a captive agency, meaning that the people, the 5-member commission is generally manned by telecom executives, people who are in the industry. So the concern is that the fox is guarding the hen house, if you will. And that's what this particular, on the screen now, you see the press conference for the lawsuit. There is an ongoing lawsuit from 2 organizations against the FCC on 5G and wireless health.
Okay.
So as far as the point of that is that the standard that was established by the FCC for wireless communications was done in 1996, and it has not been updated since. So you can just imagine with the changes in the technologies from 96 to today, that the group that oversees the radio electromagnetic frequencies has not demanded any independent testing on wireless communications
1 minute
since
to rejoin.
Okay. And there are studies on both sides of the issue. The purpose of the lawsuit is to emphasize that.
And Hard, when we come back, we do have a Facebook comment in which we will read, and I'll give you the opportunity to respond to it.
Am I on the screen now, or is it just the screen?
Yes, it's what is the screen? It's the screen share, and then you're in the, actually it shows the active speaker. So whoever's actively talking shows up in a little tiny window in the top right corner.
Okay.
All right, listen, about 25 seconds until rejoin. 20 seconds.
I'd like to finish with Cobella's question before we go to the Facebook.
All right, so we got 5 seconds. We'll do that. And we're back on Community Conversation on KLK 102.5 FM with our guest, Mr. Hart Weinstock, talking about his concerns about 5G and the Jonesboro community. On the other side of the break, Quabila had a question basically asking what are the health benefits. So we're going to let Hart finish answering that question, and then we have a comment from the Facebook Live feed, which we'll go to.
Yeah, thank you. And again, Quabila asked me about studies where people could go and look at either side of the issue at wireless health effects. And the answer to that question is yes, there are many studies that have been done on both sides of the issue. The issue comes down to whether or not the studies were independently done, and you can argue on both sides of that issue. The Federal Communications Commission, which oversees the radio spectrum for the country, is known as a captive agency. And by that, it means that the people who are on that commission, the 5-person commission, are members of the telecom industry. So you have a situation over the years where the fox is guarding the hen house, and there are civil organizations that push back against the FCC. And if you see on the screen, there's a response brief on the case against the FCC on 5G and wireless health. And this is an organization called the Environmental Health Trust, and another one is called the Children's Health Defense. And they're suing the FCC to update its standards through independent study and make a determination on the effects of radiation on humans animals, and the environment. And hopefully that answers Quabia's question. There are, and another point in the briefing, I can show you where you can go look. But the short answer is this is taken on the US government's agency for all telecommunications. So that in and of itself is an indication of how serious organizations take the issue. And if you go back again to the fact that there are countries, states in America, and localities in America that are pushing back on behalf of their citizens, the health of the citizens, then that's the overall point to make. I'm not a radio frequency engineer. I'm not a statistician. I'm not a scientist, but I am an interested citizen watching what's going on this issue around the country and around the world. And it is an issue that's drawing attention. So with that being said, Vaganza, you had a question?
Yes, now we have two. So I'll start with this first comment. This comes from Sean Only. She says, thank you for the discussion. I researched the danger of 5G and haven't found any credible concerning dangers. Exactly what is your concern? Is it health, beautification, i.e. cutting down trees, or infringement on property rights? I think your concerns are legitimate, especially since I take issue with cable, telecoms, etc., having more rights over us and delivering crappy service in return. We definitely need to address their control, but we also need to move our community forward. We must have access to be competitive and have access to information. It's interesting that we are more concerned about 5G, but not so much COVID. And your response to that?
It's pretty comprehensive. And what I hear is just at the end that there's a concern, a perceived lack of concern about COVID. I don't share that, so I don't know what Ms. Only is referring to. I'm as concerned about COVID as anyone else. And again, the impetus of what I'm talking about is that everything that was done in the city was done before COVID, pre-COVID. And I stand that why do we want to compound concerns on top of COVID? Does that make sense to y'all there? Did I make it clear?
I'm actually monitoring the live feed. We got some more comments to come in.
So let's go back real quickly to Quabia's question about the health concerns and everybody, pre-COVID, there was concerns with what radio frequency did or radiation did to people. It's again, you can read about that. I'll show you the briefing or where you can find it on this page where Dr. Spites acknowledged that there are valid concerns about radiation sickness, et cetera. And that was there before COVID. Then you have the issue of COVID. And now we're talking about proceeding with the activation of a new level of radio frequency on top of both of those. So I don't necessarily agree with the observation that I'm not concerned about COVID. I think this compounds it. And I'm asking interested citizens to talk to their councilmen and see what can be done to protect the people of Jonesboro as best they can.
All right, our next question comes from Robin Kuykendall, who says, what activity does Mr. Weinstock's local organization anticipate taking to revise legislation that currently precludes local control over contracting telecommunication services through municipal bodies?
Well, I would ask that the city council look at what other localities have done. There are model examples of actions that have been taken across America, and make a vote as to whether or not the safety, health, and welfare of the people of Jonesboro come before the telecoms and the FCC, and as importantly, the site developers. So the FCC is the governing body at the national level. And I've already talked about it being a captive agency. The FCC is given direction that localities can only do very few things to affect the telecoms as they install the 5G network throughout the country. The primary thing that cities can do is if it involves aesthetics and how it looks. So the cities have been limited by the FCC through the states, because this came through Arkansas state law or state plan, and it's down here at Jonesboro with the status quo. So to answer the question, I'm saying don't accept what they're telling us, because there are other localities that are doing what needs to be done and putting the priorities first. So if that answers the question, I'll go ahead and continue.
All right. She has a follow-up pushback. Are you a part of an organization to address state legislation limiting our city's actual power to control?
I'm not a member of any organization that talks to anything other than what I see, what I've done, and what I've shared. Now, there may be other organizations in Arkansas that do something, and if they're there, that's good. But I'm not aware of anything, and I've Googled it, I've looked, and I share what I post here, and no one else who has come back to me and noted any other organizations. And I'm not real concerned about other organizations. My city guy knows about it. My state guys know about it. The community's learning about it. And that's where my fight is. It's right inside this area here. And if I can continue, I'll speed it up a little bit. I don't know.
Okay, we got 10 minutes left in this segment, so you can continue. But if we do get another question, then I will alert you to it.
Yeah, appreciate it. So again, there's a lawsuit ongoing. It's in the courts. There have been other lawsuits, and one of my council members sent me the results of that lawsuit that the FCC won and the city of Portland, Oregon lost in its suit. But these things are ongoing. This is the big one, though, the landmark case. One of the things that I've used to try and generate interest across different interests in Jonesboro is the impact that 5G small cells have on real estate value. And this actually survey was done a number of years ago. I think it was 2014. But you can see here where there's value that is lost in a survey by people who would be less interested and would pay less for a property located near a cell tower or antenna. So this, as you can see on the picture on the left where it says reduce, it's got one of those small cells antennas up there, and that is a 5G antenna, and that's going to radiate into that house. What's it radiating? It's targeting your refrigerator to see if you need to go buy more milk. It's targeting your different systems that may be in a smart home. But the point of the slide is that according to Americans for Responsible Technology here, these guys here, which is a great website, and I'd encourage everyone to go look at it. When this survey was done, people said that they were less interested in a house that was in close to a small cell. The issue is there's going to be thousands of these cells. So it's going to be a challenge, period. To Quabila's earlier question, post 52 here, harm to humans hidden by selective experimentation, adverse health effects of 5G mobile networking technology under real life conditions. This particular post has got the most activity that I've received on any of them. But here it talks to your point, Quabila, that the testing and the studies that have been done have not necessarily been done under real world conditions by independent researchers to come up with an answer. And again, you can look into that if that's what you're interested in.
Well, I do have a few other another
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, with the studies that you're showing that have been done, what are the suggestions, the alternatives to 5G? Because the way our world is moving, the technology has to increase or to be improved upon to keep up with the changing times and the way we communicate. And especially now in this time of us being in the midst of this COVID pandemic where we can't travel, there's a lot of global business deals that are having to be held via, Zoom like this. And so there has to be an increase in technology. So if 5G is harmful, what are the alternatives? Are there any suggestions to alternatives?
Okay. The answer to the first question is yes, the alternative is wired communication. Just like the cable comes into your house and you hook up your home computer, the same thing is the safest way to accomplish the improvement in both your technology and your limiting effects of the health. Okay. The question is not just a 5G question. It's an overall wireless communications question that you're asking. And the point is that things can be done that either eliminate, reduce, or minimize the effects of wireless radiation on people for whatever it may be. For this type of communication here, and I'm not you'll see it. I'm not against wireless. Hell, we've been dealing with this for a number of years now, but this is a new technology. It's different, and it kind of raises the issue for all the others that you have to consider as well.
Can I interrupt? Because I got a couple more comments, and I think you may want to hear from them. Iris Wright Stevens says, have you read the last paragraph of the resolution? Not one word about masks. It's about restoring legislative and local representation. Right now, we are under one-man rule, and have been for 8 months. I am at a loss to understand how people are complacent with the loss of their constitutional rights. Are people really afraid that the legislature as a group that represents the entire state would make decisions worse than our one-man current government? And I'm sorry, this was actually a response to a comment, but let me finish and let you get back to your presentation. Then Sean only replies, I'm not suggesting that you aren't concerned with COVID. I appreciate you addressing the possible hazards of 5G. I just want to make sure that our so-called leaders are addressing our health issues before us. From what I'm hearing, this is also about real estate value and Big Brother violating our privacy rights. Thank you again. All right, Hard, you may now continue.
All right, to Ms. Stevens, I agree, and to Ms. Only, I agree. Okay, it's comprehensive. There's many health concerns, and again, why do we want to stack 5G on top of the concerns we already have without the information or the studies being completed or the lawsuit being completed? And that Jonesboro leaders have the wherewithal to address it. And with that, let me try and get a little bit further down in the queue here. This post here just shows that telecom workers in Europe are addressing exposure to other sources of wireless communication can cause exposure. Last year, the World Health Organization, which is, as we hold up as the body that knows all, warned that high levels of electromagnetic fields, EMF, or what they call electrosmog, including wireless, could lead to health issues in 30% of the population. All right, so that's the link here with the COVID, with overall health and our ability to respond to it. So I'm not gonna show you everyone, but I want to. One of the things about 5G is in that it's different. It uses different. It's higher on the radio frequency spectrum. It's closer to microwave ovens, if you will. But one of the things that 5G does that the other LTE and below do not do is it targets you and it targets equipment. So all these antennas that are going to be pulsing, it's going to find you. Once you're inside a 5G area, you're going to be radiated. So the installation of 5G is not, unlike the installation of fiber optics, a private concern. Once the small cells start broadcasting, the radiation impacts everyone within range, whether they're 5G customers or not. So if I take my 4G phone and I turn it off, it's not pulsing for that signal. But the 5G will pulse everybody and it will find you. And again, look at who I've sent this to. I just lobbed it out to Jonesboro Community Response. Got a few answers. I'm just trying to find interested people. City of Jonesboro is always there. I sent it to KLEK. I sent it to Shatley for mayor, Copenhagen for mayor, and I sent it to Elwood, news reports, just trying to generate some information for others to consider. And again, I thank you for letting me come on to KLEK and do what is obviously a very informal discussion about this. Again, I'm not an engineer. I'm just know what I read and use what, little common sense my dad told me God gave me to figure it out.
Well, let me ask you this. And I'm reading through an article on wired.com. And so.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're getting ready to get up against the break, but we'll pick it up on the other side of the break. We've got about 10 seconds. We're speaking with Hard Weinstock, talking about concerns for 5G, and you still have an opportunity to leave your questions and your comments. We're going to take a quick break and back with more. This is KLK 102.5 FM. All right, so this break could be 1:30, 1:45, 2:50. So this will be another 3-minute break, and then we'll have a 8-minute wrap up.
So we're not going to go the entire hour.
Well, it's already 9:46.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's flown by.
Well, hopefully it's been informative to you and your listeners.
It has, and we've definitely gotten some feedback. Let's check the comments, see if there's any new ones. No new comments. But definitely people are watching and people are asking questions and leaving comments. So, which is always a good thing.
So is this page public for anyone to view?
Yeah.
I posted it in the comments so people could follow it.
But I will say that I have gotten indications from others that for some reason it doesn't show up when you do that search. And I don't know anything else that I can do with respect, other than asking Facebook just to, see if there's anything that limits the reach, but that hadn't been the case.
Have you had the opportunity to do more public speaking concerning this topic?
Well, if they're interested, I guess the Sun has its own audience. I've written 3 or 4 letters to the editor about it. Have
1 minute.
never received any. Well, I've received some informal thanks for addressing the issue, but nothing that's generated any real concern. As you can see here, I shared
45 seconds.
across the Jonesboro communities to include officials, and nothing has bubbled up to a level of concern where they're doing anything. And I've done
25 seconds.
so this is really just another attempt to get the information out there and see if, in fact, people are interested in hearing more. I do offer to come and speak to whoever wants to talk about it. And, this is
I stand by. Oh, I'm sorry, 30. We had 30 more seconds. We missed an announcement. Sorry, 30 seconds.
This is about as formal as I get.
Okay.
So I guess I'd be happy to come do this again if you want something more on it, but that'd be up to your listeners or you guys.
10 seconds.
Okay.
And stand by. And we're back on Community Conversation on KLK 102.5 FM with our guest, Weinstock, talking about the concerns that he has about 5G coming to Jonesboro. I believe Kwabila was getting ready to ask a question right before we went to break.
Yes, so as some may know, 5G stands for fifth generation when it comes to the wireless technology. And so, as I had asked before, the world is just making all these different, I don't want to say improvements, changes in technology and how we communicate and how, different things are operated, such as, now there are automated cars, and there's all this different technology that's coming out. So because of these reports, and they're saying that 5G is very detrimental to our health and safety of our communities. I mean, and I'm not trying to downplay this, I'm just asking a question based on some things I've read. Are these individuals or these studies suggesting we go backwards and reduce, like, I know that the more that these different, let's just take cell phone companies, for example, the more they increase their, I guess you say, the G's, the 3, 4, 5Gs, it creates a faster connection and your device is able to perform a little better, so they say. But what are the suggestions as far as, should we not depend so much on increased technology? And I don't want to say go backwards like to the 90s, but should we just slow down or stop? Or what the studies say?
Well, the lawsuit says that we need to stop until independent studies are done that allow the FCC to update the standard that they've used since 1996. So what you're referring to is called the Internet of Things, where 5G is the implementing frequency to do that. When I talked earlier about a small cell outside your home that's pinging your house, and your refrigerator tells it that you need to stop and buy milk. Those kinds of things are going to come in relatively quickly once it's activated. Regarding the self-driving cars and everything else, that's further on down the line. And what happens with future technology is future technology. The point of this is to suggest that Jonesboro take a step back and look at what some of their options are for increasing the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens with the implementation of this this newer technology, and go from there. Now, go ahead.
We can say citizens take it even a step further, because right now a lot of people already have a house full of smart devices.
Right,
People have smart TVs, we know that smart refrigerators are already a thing. Some people have a whole smart house. And
right.
so they need that increased that connectivity to make sure everything functions properly. So should, instead of going after, I'm not gonna say city council, our local government, maybe then lobbying, or not lobbying, but protesting somewhat against the manufacturers of these devices and say, okay, your devices are increasing people's needs and desires for increased connectivity to, so how far down the line do we go?
What, with respect to legislation or through the government, that's up to any group that can muster the effort to challenge whatever the law is. I'll show you something here in a minute that kind of shows a graphic of that. But
you may want to go ahead and show it quickly, because it's it's almost 9:55, and I think we'll have at 9:57 we'll start going into our outro. So if you have another graphic, you may want to quickly show it.
Yeah, let me just go down here. And one thing I want to do is offer any questions that anybody has to go to the @5G, and let me show you what I think is to Quabila's question. This is a meter, and let me just let it run for a minute here, because I'm not going to have a lot of time. Well, that didn't help, did it?
And I'm not sure if hopefully the audio will come through. I don't think the audio is going to come through via the Zoom situation. I know I've been on Zoom calls in which it did.
But if you look at the screen, the large number is 1 point whatever. That number should never be above 1. Up in the upper left, there's a smaller number that's difficult to read, but it's a peak level of radiation. So as I'm doing a 360 here and going by the cell tower right there, which is not a 5G cell tower, it's just radio. It speaks to Quabella's comment of radiation in the house from all the things that we're using already, right? That there is radiation, it's invisible. We can't see it. But this is a device that measures that radiation, let's say 1 to 4G or LTE. And again, the numbers show that the activity there. Now, let me see if I can get back to that page. So that's an example. And again, there's other examples on the page. What I want to, and there's Jonesboro High School.
I'm going to blow your mind. A bit controversial, but it has some really important lessons. The fact that
all right, we got 2.5 minutes before the end of the show. So I don't know if you want to play any more of that, or maybe get into your closing comments.
All right. Can you see the picture of the cell towers around the houses?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you know that's how close they're going to be, and they're going to be radiating 24/7. I included, this is Jonesboro Homes for Sale. People want to have the most information they can have for buying or selling. Children are affected differently, and this is one I wanted to show you. So this is the Arkansas,
1:45.
Arkansas State Plan. You see that?
I see a bunch of red dots in us.
Okay, what you're seeing is, here's Jonesboro. All right,
Okay.
and you can see the Jonesboro is the darkest color here. And if you go down to the legend, you can see that at 1,000 millibytes per second, Jonesboro is going to have the most powerful signal of 5G once it's activated in different parts of the city. And anything down again at the legend, anything light green or higher is considered broadband. So
we got a minute left.
Is spending a ton of money through CARES funding to expand broadband throughout the state. I wanted to show you that, and then just in way of let me see.
But we've got 45 seconds, so we're going to have to get ready to leave it there. Hart, we definitely want to thank you for stopping by virtually today to talk to our listeners. And of course, the link is in our comments. You can check out the page and get more information. You can also look, how can people get in touch if you want to ask you more questions quickly? 20 seconds.
Yeah, I'd say go to this page and
send an inbox.
Text me.
All right, so you can inbox the 5G Hurricane page on Facebook if you have any questions or comments, but we got to get up out of here. You guys have a great and blessed day. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you, Jonesboro.
All right, let's stop the live stream and stop the recording.